Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I got up today and I thought that I would share some good news with you today. I read a really positive article about a brother who is doing the right things with his kids, and and I thought that I would share this with you. And the reason I think this is important is because so many of us were raised in households where economic conversations didn't happen. A lot of us were raised in households where we were left with debt and bills and no wealth at all. And so I'm going to really break this down for you. I'm not just going to show you this story. I'm going to explain exactly how this works and how you can do this for your children. And so I hope that this is something that can benefit you. Okay, so do me a favor. We are on this platform, in case you don't know. When it comes to the Dr. Boyce Breakdown, we are Black first, and we use hashtag B1 in order to make that point. So if you are Black first, put hashtag B1 in the chat. Let me know if you are Black first. You have to be Black first in order to appreciate analysis on issues that affect Black people. So put a hashtag B1 in the chat to let me know that you're Black first, and also shout out your city. Let me know what city you're from. Hit the thumbs up button. I'm going to break this down for you right now. Okay, so here's the story. It's the story in Business Insider, and there's a brother who says basically that he says my son has more money in the bank than I did at 18, and it's part of my plan to build generational wealth. This was written by Kevin Matthews II. He says, I'm using buy and hold strategy to create generational wealth for my family. Within weeks of coming home from the hospital, my son and daughter each had a 529 college plan and a custodial account. At age 2, my son's on track to have 75 times more wealth when he turns 18 than I did. Saving money is important, but generational wealth is built through investing sustained by good habits like communication and consistency. So this brother basically talks about how he made plans for his son. He had a newborn baby, and he did exactly what we tell our parents to do in the Black Business School. We tell them on a regular basis that that you need to break the cycle. You need to break the cycle of poverty. You got to get your kids out of the trap. A lot of us, we get to the age of 30, 40, 45 years old, and we feel trapped. We feel trapped by this job where you're working with some bigot that doesn't like you. We're trapped by financial stress. Financial stress kills people. I don't know if you know, the studies show that financial stress causes you to die younger. We feel trapped by the fact that we can't focus on living a dream because we're stuck in an ugly reality. So you don't even take the time to even nurture a beautiful dream because you're too busy fighting off an ugly and uncomfortable reality. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Give me a yes or no in the chat, so that I know I'm talking to the right people. I need to know that you understand what the struggle feels like when you're Black in America or Black anywhere in the world. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Hey, Lillian from Chicago and Alice Williams. I see you too. And Nanya's from Barbados and True Justice from Norfolk, Virginia. Give me a yes or no if you know what I'm talking about. Give me a yes or no if you've ever known, what it's like to, grow up eating bologna sandwiches with no bread, or, sitting in college so broke that that you reach in your pockets and there's no money, there's just lint. You're like, I thought that was $1, but really it was a piece of paper. Tell me if you know what it's like to maybe get evicted because you didn't have enough money to pay the rent. I know that feeling. I've gone through that. It sucks, man. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. And the thing about it, the interesting thing about it is that many of us grow up thinking that everybody lives like that. Like that's just normal. Like we think it's normal to not have enough money to pay the rent, to struggle month to month. We think it's normal to have to work for a white man until you grow old and gray and die at your desk, right? We think it's normal to rent an apartment for 30 years. We think that stuff normal because a lot of us, that's what we saw just growing up. We saw really bad intergenerational economic trauma passed from one generation to the next. And it wasn't necessarily the fault of our parents and ancestors. It's because this slavery, white supremacy thing really did a number on us. I mean, it really threw us backward. And so we really think that going backward is the same as going forward. And that's just not true. Um, so here's the deal. You guys may or may not know this, but I'll just share it really quick. My PhD is in finance. So that's what I've been studying for almost 30 years now. I've been teaching college students at multiple universities around the world. And the big thing that I picked up from all this analysis is that many of these problems, this intergenerational trauma that we pass to our children through bad economic planning, can be avoided with very basic, very easy steps. Very easy steps. And so, what this brother's doing, I think, is remarkable. I'm really excited about this article. I read it and I said, "Oh my goodness, this is great. This is a great way to exemplify a father, because Black fathers matter. Black fathers matter." Say something in the chat if you agree with me that Black fathers matter. Why do I say that? I say it repeatedly and loudly because I need to make sure that's clear. Another bad habit, a bad intergenerational habit that kills us emotionally and financially is this idea that we believe our kids don't need their daddy. No, if they need their mama, they need their daddy. If you need a mother, you need a father. Stop believing that nonsense. Seriously, a kid is not complete if he doesn't have a male role model. That's why you got these little weak ass boys out here that try to try to claim that they're trying to date a girl and don't even know what it means to take a girl on a date. Don't even know what it means to respectfully approach a woman in a serious way, because they're little boys. They're little boys in grown man's skin, and the best way for that little boy to learn how to be a man is from another man. Manhood is a template. It's a costume that you put on. Not so much like you're faking, but it's a uniform. Better yet, it's a uniform, and the only person that can show you how to really put on that uniform and wear it right is another man. So Black fathers matter. So shout out to this Black father for writing this article and for doing this with his son. So I'm gonna break down some of the secrets in terms of what's really going on with this article. I'm gonna pull it up on my screen. Do me a favor, guys. Hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, share, and subscribe button, please do that. Share this video. And in case you don't know, in the Black Business School, we actually created custom-made workbooks for Black children, workbooks and flashcards, specifically for Black children to teach them economic concepts from investing to how the stock market works, to the fundamentals of money and things like that. So if you're interested in taking a look, feel free. Christmas is coming, so these are great Christmas gifts for the little kids in your family. So feel free to go to financialworkbooks.com. That's the URL right there, financialworkbooks.com. So here's what he says. He says, one of my proudest moments was the day I reached $2,000 in savings at the age of 18. More than a decade later, my 2-year-old son has not only passed that number already, but he's on pace to have $150,000 when he turns 18. That's 75 times the amount I had. Now, I want you to think about this, right? Imagine when you turned 18, just, imagine this out loud. Imagine how do you think your life would have been different? State it in the chat, please. Please say something in the chat. In what ways do you think your life would have been different if you had $150,000 to start with? You turn 18 for your 18th birthday. Your dad says, "Hey son," or "Hey sweetheart," or your mama says, "Hey baby, I've been investing for you since you were born. When you were born, I had a vision for your life. When you were born, I wanted you to be financially successful and healthy and happy. So here's $150,000 in stock that I've accumulated for you with a very easy process over the last 18 years. How would it have changed your life? Say something in the chat. Let me know how that would have changed your life. I know for me, it would change my life because I wouldn't have had to take on as much student loan debt. I would have been able to buy a house a lot sooner. If I'd had the right training and skill at the time, I could have started a business. A lot of times you can start a business with less than $5,000 if you know what you're doing, right? If you get training on it, and starting a business, it changes everything. For me, being a business owner didn't just change um, my life economically. I mean that's a given. I was just in Atlanta at a conference of Black business owners, and half the people in the room were regular Black folks who grew up like you and I, who are making 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, 80,000, 100,000, $200,000 a month. One business in there actually made $10 million this year. You don't make that much money on a job. There's no white man that'll pay you that much money unless you're playing in the NBA or the NFL. And so it would have made a big difference, right? It would have made a big difference for a lot of our lives. And why does that make a difference? Well, because and this is more of a financial thing. It's because when you have assets, you have what is called a capital base. A capital base is nothing more than a set of assets that allows you to generate income so you can pay your bills and get on with your life. So a capital base can be something as basic as somebody giving you some rental property that's generating monthly income. And so you've got cash flow. So because you got cash flow from your capital base, you don't need to go get a job because your money is your job. Your money is doing the job for you. Your capital base is working for you. Like an employee, your capital base is generating that 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a month that you need to enjoy your life. So instead of spending all your time on the corporate plantation, you're spending your time on vacation. You're spending your time with your children. You're going to the movies on a Tuesday afternoon with your Aunt Lucy because you ain't got nothing else to do because you don't have to get up and go to work every day. See, it creates a whole new life. It creates what I call almost like a financial wormhole. And a wormhole, if you think about wormholes in space, wormholes basically allow you to go from one dimension to the other. They allow you to quickly go from one side of the universe to the other, right? It's the bending of space time where you create a whole different reality just in a snap. Well, capital bases can form what I call a financial wormhole. It opens the door to a whole reality that you never would have experienced if you had to spend 100,000 hours of time at a job in your life. I mean, think about this. Do the math. Let's do the math real quick. If and this is what you're freeing your children from, by the way. This is about not just about you. This is about your kids. Think about this. You work 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. That's 40 times 50. Let's say you get 2 weeks a year off for vacation. 40 times 50 is 2,000 hours a year. 2,000 times 10 over a decade, you're giving 20,000 hours to your boss. You do that over a 40-year period, you're giving 80,000 hours. Most of us start working before 18. I don't know about you, but I had my first job when I was about 13. And many of us work after retirement and many of us work overtime. So by the time you're done, by the time you're old and gray and dead, you will have given about 100,000 hours of time to building somebody else's business, to working for somebody, doing something that you don't want to do, doing something that you wouldn't be doing if they weren't giving you money. I mean, process that, right? So when you free your child from the corporate plantation, what you're doing is you're giving them the gift of 100,000 hours of freedom to explore who they are. They get 100,000 extra hours to spend time with their family. Think about this. Imagine if you spent 100,000 hours with your loved ones that you never would have spent because you're at work every day. I mean, that's a powerful thing, right? That's the part I want you to kind of understand so you can get beyond the money. I mean, stop thinking about wealth building as, I can go buy me I can go buy me a new Lamborghini, or I can go get me get me 5 cars in my 6 car garage, or I can, buy a Gucci purse. This is not about a Gucci purse. I'm not telling you to not go buy a Gucci purse or a Fendi bag or a new pair of Air Jordans. I'm not telling you can't do that. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I've made some money. I know how to get those things. But the thing is, those things do not make you happy. Those things, there's a whole video I just watched the other day with the Dalai Lama and all these celebrities, these very famous celebrities, Cameron Diaz, and these mostly white celebrities, Cameron Diaz and Brad Pitt and all these others, were basically talking about how money doesn't make you happy. They were literally like, no, people think that being rich and famous makes you happy, but it doesn't. I'm like, yeah, I know that because I'm an expert on financial psychology, and I understand that money is like a drug. It's just like cocaine or something. Money will make you feel really, really good when you first get it, but at the end of the day, you got to find your bliss. Your bliss is not found in your bank account. Your bliss is beyond the bank account, but you got to get through the bank account in order to get to the bliss. You got to, the money is first base. If you want to hit a home run, you can't hit a home run by running to first base. You got to run the first base through first base so you can get to second base, third base, and then get to home plate. But you'll never get to home plate if you never get to first base, which is why you cripple your children when you don't prepare them financially. You cripple them. They can't even run past first base. They can't hit a home run in life because they can't even get past first base. How are they gonna reach level 5 of nirvana or happiness or self-fulfillment or self-actualization when they find who they are and love their life when they can't even get past the basics of simple economic survival? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, what I'm saying to you right now is deeper than just the money. Please take care of the money part so you can really take care of you. So you can really find out what your life is supposed to be. Your purpose is deeper than just going to get up every day and working for UPS. UPS is not your destiny. I don't know why God put you on this earth, but I highly doubt that God put you on this planet to get up and go to Office Depot every day for 8 hours a day. It's no disrespect. If you work at Office Depot, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just saying that maybe somebody else disrespected you by leaving you in a position where that was what you had to spend the majority of your time doing because they didn't give you the basics that you needed for simple economic survival. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay, let's keep going. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit the thumbs up, share, and subscribe button. Please do that. If you haven't done it yet, please hit the thumbs up, share, and subscribe button. And also, we actually, most of the stuff is free. If you're interested in taking a look at some ideas that we have for a Black agenda that you don't need politicians' permission to pursue, feel free to go to theallblackagenda.com. That's the URL right there on the screen. There's a lot of free resources on there, like the 100-year family wealth plan, the 6 rules of wealth that every young person should know. So this is more so for the young folks that want to really make sure they have an amazing future. We also have other things there for people of any age, right? So feel free to go take a look at the allblackagenda.com. I put that together as a set of resources and principles on which I think that Black people can find power, success, and fulfillment without asking politicians or waiting for corporations or waiting for other people to do it. We can do this ourselves. I'm a big believer in do for self. I'm a big believer in our potential. I'm a big believer in Black excellence. So the allblackagenda.com is built on that. And also, if you want to get text notifications when I go live, you can text the word Boyce to 31996. That's right there on the ticker. Feel free to do that. Okay, so let me just speak specifically about this brother's plan. So this brother says that he saved $2,000 by the age of 18. That's more than what I had. That's pretty good. How many of you, give me a yes or no? How many did you have $2,000 in the bank when you were 18, or were you broke like me? I was broke, and I wasn't just broke as a joke. I was a bad joke. I was like the joke that didn't even make you laugh because I was so broke. I was the joke that made you cry. But he said he had $2,000 saved by the age of 18, and he says his son has more than $2,000, and he's going to have 150,000 by the time he turns 18, which I think is great. Now he says this isn't because I inherited a fortune or sold a business for thousands of dollars. This is an example of simply investing in the stock market early and holding for the long term. Growing up, my view of creating generational wealth was narrow. My parents didn't have a financial planner, and neither owned stocks. The extent of my financial knowledge up until that point didn't go beyond checking and savings accounts. From 2006 to 2008, I worked at a grocery store, then as a cashier at a gas station for $5.25 an hour. When I finally hit $2,000, I felt, by my modest standards, wealthy for the first time. Only 41% of Americans can cover an emergency expense of $1,000 with their savings. Additionally, the median net worth for African Americans in the greater Boston area was just $8 in 2017. He said, not a typo. And nationally, it's just over $17,000 today. Let's break this down. Let me read this to you again because I really need you to hear it. Okay, I really need you to hear it, and give me a couple words to tell me how this makes you feel. Listen to this. He says, only 41% of Americans can cover an emergency expense of $1,000 with their savings. Additionally, the median net worth for African Americans in the greater Boston area was just $8. This is not a typo. In 2017 and nationally, it is just over $17,000 today. How does that make you feel? Say something in the chat about how you feel emotionally hearing that the median net worth for Black people in Boston was $8. Respond. Let me see. DeMarlo says I was broker than you. I was probably in the negative. Yeah, I was in the negative too. Here's what I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to do you guys a favor. And if you listen, I promise you it'll change your life. I'm qualified to say this because I've taught thousands of college students about this stuff. And also in the Black Business School, we made the racial wealth gap literally our life mission. It's literally the most important thing in the world to us. We are leading experts on understanding the racial wealth gap and how to fix it. So here's the deal with that, right? So median net worth, pay attention now. Three things I want you to listen to and process as I explain this to you. One is the average American doesn't have $1,000 to even take care of basic expenses. Okay, that's the first thing. Number two is the median net worth of a Black person in the Boston area was $8. That's the second piece. The third piece is that nationally, median net worth is $17,000. So that means, so when you look at white people and you put them on a pedestal and, we're trained to think that they're so special and so wonderful and so great, That's the median net worth of a typical white American, about $17,000, according to this article. Now for a family, it's about $170,000 for an entire family. So let's start with $1,000 for an emergency expense. You see, the thing is that if you have basic financial preparation, um, that hurdle is very easy to jump. It's very easy to put, and I'm talking about you and your children. It's very easy to put a person in a position where they don't have that problem anymore. Like that's an easy. If you think of it like, if you think of me like a financial doctor, and that's like of the coronavirus. Well, this is not a virus that's going to require me to be in the lab very long for me to come up with a vaccine, right? The vaccine for this virus is one that I can develop for you in about 35 seconds flat. Um, One of the things that I would suggest that you consider taking a look at, and this is free. It's my $5 a day investing plan. The $5 a day investing plan, you can actually find that at the allblackagenda.com. And the $5 a day investing plan, again, you can get that free. It's right there on the site. What it does is I show you exactly how a person that puts $5 a day in the stock market for their child at the age of 0 is going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars, not a few thousand, not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in liquid assets for their child by the time the child turns 18. This is not magic. This is just mathematics. You know, I'm not a magician. I'm just a mathematician. And the math is straightforward. It's based on what they call the future value of an annuity equation. It is standard throughout all of finance, and it blows people's minds. Nobody believes it. Albert Einstein, when he saw how fast money grows when you allow your interest to compound, he said that compound interest is the strongest force in the universe, stronger than gravity, right? Einstein said this. So what I really encourage you to consider, if you take this stuff seriously, is do something very basic, very consistent that involves the stock market, and just do it consistently over a long period of time. What that does is that gets your kids out of the trap. You know, rappers like to rap about the trap, being in the trap. I'm from the trap. I'm from the hood in the trap, right? Well, I don't want my kids in the trap. I don't know about you. Everybody type "no trap" in the chat if you agree with me. I don't want my kids in the trap. You know, I was in the trap long enough to know I don't want to be in the trap. The trap is, you know, when I think about the trap, I think of prison, where people go through terrible things in prison. When I think about the trap, I think about poverty. When I think about the trap, I think about the depression, extensive amounts of depression that exists all throughout the Black community because of financial stress. When I think about the trap, I think about bad relationships. Money is the number one cause of divorce and broken families. I don't know if you know this. I'm marrying a woman who's a marriage therapist. It's not as much fun as you think, by the way. It's not. It's a little bit tough sometimes. Sometimes I have to say, Alicia, stop preaching at me, girl. Stop it. Just stop it. But no, but she's a marriage. She's a relationship therapist, and money is one of the leading stressors in relationships. So type "no trap" in the chat if you agree with me. I don't want my kids in the trap. I want my kids to have freedom. And so here's the deal, right? And I did a video about this actually on a YouTube channel that we have called Financial Juneteenth TV. And feel free to, you can go there and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Feel free to take a look. FinancialJuneteenthTV.com. I did a video. I think the title something like "How to Be a Millionaire Taught to You in 3 minutes or Less." And I do literally a 3 minute video where I explain exactly how a person can be a liquid millionaire over a generation. Now it takes time, right? Like if you do this for your child and you use the $5 a day method, it takes about 40 years to hit millionaire status. But literally think about this process, how extraordinary this is. It basically says you can go from the deepest level of poverty to being in the 1% in a generation. So this idea that these generational curses are unavoidable, that there's just no way to fix it, that's just a lie. I'm just here to tell you, I know more about finance than 99% of these fools on TV that are running their mouths telling you that you can't do nothing because you're Black. I understand things that they'll never understand. I knew more about economics at the age of 24 than most of them will know for their entire life. When I was 24, I had been teaching college students for 2 years at the University of Kentucky and Indiana University. That's how deep the knowledge goes. So I'm telling you that is a lie. I don't know why they want to tell you that lie. Maybe they have their own reasons for keeping you in the trap. But I don't want you to be in the trap. I want you to break out of that. So that is just a lie. So with the $5 a day method that I lay out in that short video, again, you can go to financialjuneteenth.tv.com and feel free to take a look. It's right there. Um, this method, what it does is it allows you to take advantage of two things you get from the stock market that's pretty awesome. One is long-term consistent growth of your assets over time that comes through compound interest. And then secondly, it gives you the ability to connect your economic fate to the economic fate of rich people. You see, 90% of all millionaires are stock market investors. And the bulk of them started investing in the stock market before they became millionaires, not after. People don't start acting rich when they get rich. That don't make no sense. That's like saying an athlete gets in. He only starts to work out once he's in shape. Well, how'd you get in shape if you wasn't working out? I mean, think about that. Like seriously, it wouldn't make any sense for me to say, well, athletes start working out once they're in great physical shape. No, you work out so you can get into physical shape. You start working out when you're chubby. When you're sitting on the couch with your Doritos and you decide to get off the couch and start going to the gym. Then you start to become what you do. Your look, your physical appearance starts to reflect your actions and activities every day. When I was overweight and looking chubby, Alicia, who loves me enough to tell me about myself, to tell me the truth, she came to me and she said, babe, I love you, but you're getting bigger. You need to work on this. This is not healthy for you. So I started working out and it was hard. It was really difficult. I hated it. I didn't like getting up off the couch. I didn't like having to go out in 10-degree weather and go running in the morning. But I also didn't like gaining 15 pounds a year. And so I started working out. And then over time, my body started to reflect what I was doing, right? So your financial body, it reflects your financial choices. That's what I'm getting at. So if you become a millionaire, if a person becomes a true self-made millionaire, their millionaire status is a reflection of their mindset. It is a reflection of their choices. It's a reflection of what they do with their extra money. So what I encourage you to do is to make sure your kids start acting like millionaires and start acting like wealthy people before they become wealthy people. And then eventually their life will reflect who they are and what they choose to do. So with the $5 a day investing plan, basically a 5-year-old could do it. Literally, it's so simple that even a monkey can do it. And I say monkey deliberately because there was an experiment that was done on a very similar method by Burt Malkiel in 1974. And in this experiment, he trained monkeys to invest, and he showed that monkeys can build more wealth than a person who doesn't invest at all. So the biggest mistake you can make when it comes to investing is to not invest at all. So let's go back to what the brother said. The brother mentions that most Americans can't come up with $1,000 in the event of an emergency. That problem solved for your kids. We check that box off because you've invested for them since they were little. Now they've got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're fine. They're going to be okay. They can get money for business. They can get money to buy their first house. They don't have to go deep in student loan debt. All those are game changers for your child's freedom. Not just freedom as an individual, but freedom from racism. Most racial oppression is linked to the fact that they control you economically. The reason they control you economically is because you don't have a capital base. So therefore, when you give your child a capital base, your child cannot be easily controlled because they can tell that boss to kiss their ass. They've got what I call FU money. FU money means that you can go tell your boss, F you, I'm out, and walk out that door and not have a single regret. You can sleep well at night. You're not sleeping in a cold sweat because you're worried about paying the mortgage. You're good. Your bills are paid. Okay. So everybody type FU in the chat if you get what I'm saying. We ain't gotta cuss today. Just say FU. FU FU money means having enough in the bank, enough resources and enough assets that you can say FU to your boss and you can walk away. So that should be your first goal. If you have FU money, then what happens is you're unlocking the rest of your potential because you then have access to that 100,000 hours that you were going to spend, literally a third of your waking life, at least, that you were going to spend at the job, and you get to spend that time with your family. It's not natural to spend that more time with your boss than you spend with your kids. It's not natural to spend more time in a factory than you spend with your spouse. You're not supposed to do that. I saw a video with a sister who's like, what is this? Going to work every day. What is this thing? Who came up with this? They need to come up with something else. I don't know if y'all saw the video. It's really funny, but it's sad. It's really funny, but it's sad. And so in fact, I'll do a video about what she said so I can break it down for you. But Basically, she's like, "Who came up with this? Going to work every day and may I help you, please?" And blah blah. Blah. So I don't like this. And I'm like, yeah, I know where this came from. This came from the Industrial Revolution, where they convinced you that that's what your purpose was in life. Your purpose was to be a slave to corporate America. They trained you to believe that. They trained you that way from birth. They keep you financially dependent and weak and ignorant, and then they train you that the best way for you to find fulfillment is to get up and go work for a white man for 40 hours a week. And it ain't even just racial. It's not even just racial, though. They do that to white people, too. They don't just do that to black people. But they just do that to you first because you're the most gullible. They do that to you first because you've been trained to be slaves for 400 years. So you're easy. You're easy to convince. They say it to you first because you're the biggest white supremacist in America, because you're the ones who've been trained to believe that working for that guy is somehow a status symbol. That somehow getting the nice fancy corporate job with the corner office that's the goal. That's when you've achieved the pinnacle of success. And that's not the pinnacle. It doesn't mean it's bad. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying that's not the pinnacle. You're not even at first base yet. If you don't even have financial freedom and independence, then you haven't hit first base. So how are you going to hit a home run when you can't get to first base? I know. You have no idea how many people I know. I know a lot of educated people, a lot of educated black people. I just do, because I just bump into them. You have no idea how many black people I know who got all kinds of degrees: BAs, BSs, MA, MS, JD, PhD, MD, and all these other letters behind their name that convince them that they're better than other people. You have no idea how many people I know. Some of y'all in here probably got letters behind your name. How many of y'all in here got degrees? How many black people in here got all kinds of degrees and went to school and got the debt to show it? Recognize yourself in the chat. And I want to congratulate you for your achievement, because I do think it's worth something, right? So I'm not making fun of you. But say something in the chat if you're if you're black with degrees, right? Okay, so we have all these black people with degrees. We have more black people with degrees than ever. And what's interesting to me is that we owned 15 times more land 100 years ago than we own today. We owned 15 times more land 100 years ago than we own right now. And that's because instead of chasing assets, we were chasing degrees, because we mistakenly thought that a degree was the best asset you can have. And I'm not saying that it's not an asset. I'm not saying that you can't have a life where you love your job or achieve financial freedom or any of these things. I'm not saying that's not possible. So if you're in that category, then I congratulate you. I think that's really great. But let me tell you what's going on with millions of other people. Millions of other people, they have the degrees, but the debt is so daunting and heavy that they will never be able to achieve the real goal, which is to have financial strength and freedom and security, or have assets that you can actually pass to their children. They won't have that. Many of them are going to die in debt, and they're going to die in debt because they kind of pulled a rope a dope on you a little bit. They tricked you a little bit. They didn't. It wasn't that college is not beneficial. I went to college. I taught college for 27 years, so I know college very, very well. I know the whole system extremely well. College has its benefits, but college also has a toxic side to it. That all that debt, it's not natural to spend $200,000 getting a degree. I used to teach at Syracuse University, and I looked it up. The total cost to attend Syracuse University for 1 year is about $72,000. $72,000. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that's too much. I would not in a million years send my child to that school, and I can afford it. Like I can afford to pay the tuition at Syracuse, but I wouldn't do it because it would be a waste of money. I would send my child to a state school where the tuition would be half of that. And I would also make sure my child knew how to start a business so they can learn how to make real money, not the fake money. They're business owners that make more money. They're business owners you'll never hear about who make 10 times more money than you can ever make on a job. Seriously, I'm just telling you, if you want your kids to be wealthy, invest for them early and teach them how to start a business, teach them how to buy real estate. They do that, they're going to make an amount of income that will dwarf the amount that people make on jobs. But then again, I told you guys that the money is not the final goal. The money is just a tool. The money is just a pathway. It's like passing go on Monopoly. It's like literally like something. It's something you get out of the way so you can get to the things that really matter. What really matters is your family. What matters is those babies that you have to neglect because you're at work all the time. What matters is your physical and mental health. You have millions of black people that are dying young because of the stress on their job. Literally, a Harvard professor linked black men dying early. Like, black men don't usually live long enough to really take advantage of Social Security. Y'all know that whole narrative, right? But that's not a woe is me narrative. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of hearing woe is me narratives. I need to hear solution based narratives. I'm a solutionary, like, just like revolutionary. I want to be a solutionary. And so basically, black men are dying younger, and they say they're dying younger because of racism, and a lot of the racism is coming from their job, because most brothers can't survive and be healthy and happy in a step and fetch it role for their entire life. It's very stressful. Most people are not happy when they're financially insecure all the time. I mean, they're working extremely hard just to barely make it. That's crazy to me. I mean, and I'm not making fun of it because we were all raised this way. Well, maybe we need to raise our children in a different way. How about that? Maybe that's the solution. But do me a favor, guys. Please hit the thumbs up button, share, and subscribe button. Also, in case you guys don't know, we actually have a Black Stock Market Challenge. If you are nervous about the stock market, or if you want to learn more, or you want to get better, it's totally free. Go to blackstockmarketchallenge.com. And the Black Stock Market Challenge, I guarantee you, by the time you're done, you will know a whole lot more about the stock market. So everybody's doing internet challenges. They had I'll just call it the vagina challenge. Y'all remember that, where everybody was singing about how great their vagina is and how much they love sex or whatever, right? Well, we don't do that. We talk about how much we love freedom. We are as obsessed with freedom as some people are with debauchery and buffoonery. So our challenge is the Black Stock Market Challenge. So feel free to go to blackstockmarketchallenge.com. It's a 5-day challenge that will increase your training and learning on the stock market and help you reach a higher level. So feel free to go to that URL. It's right there on the screen. So let me go back to this article, and I appreciate you too, Ricky Parker. Thank you for those kind words. I see you in there, brother. I'm gonna read that paragraph again, and then I'm gonna give you a couple of quick insights on this brother's analysis. Um, and this is something I think I can offer, as a person that studies this stuff all the time. So he says only 41% of Americans can cover an emergency expense of $1,000 with their savings. Median net worth for African Americans in Boston was $8, and nationally is $17,000 today. So that first problem of not having $1,000 for expenses, when you do something like the $5 a day investing plan, or you invest consistently for your child by maybe taking money out of your account each week that goes into a stock portfolio, then your child avoids those problems. Their net worth is not going to be $8; it'll be more like 80,000, and eventually it'll be 200,000, and then eventually it'll be 400, half a million. It'll be eventually, maybe before they're done, they have a very good shot at hitting millionaire status. This is not hard to do. This is just mathematics. $5 a day. I picked that as the investment level because most people can afford that. $5 a day won't even buy you a Popeye's chicken value meal. So you can't even, so if you tell me black people can't afford to invest, then that's like saying black people can't afford Popeye's chicken. And we know that that's not true. Black people can buy chicken. We buy lots of it, right? So in addition to buying your chicken, how about buying your kids a future? How about in addition to getting some Air Jordans, how about you give yourself some freedom, and some liberty and some opportunity in this world? And instead of just going to the club, how about you join the club of black people that are seeking to escape the plantation of oppression? How about that? How about that be a better club, right? Instead of the bottle of Ciroc, give yourself give yourself the vaccine against all the oppression that we experience in this world. Racism, white supremacy, all that. There is a vaccine for that, right? We can flatten that curve. It's not going to flatten for everybody because some people are too caught up in old ways of thinking. I like this brother's article because he's basically doing something for his family that's going to last for the next 200 years. You really think? I mean, process this, right? The principles that he's teaching his son's going to teach that to his kids, and then those kids are going to teach it to those kids. So 50, 60 years from now, when the family's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, they're going to look back and they're going to say, great granddaddy's where it all began. He's the one who started it all, right? They're going to honor this man. Like, this is what I call creating legacy, man. This is what makes you a juggernaut in your family. This is what allows you to say, I did the best I could with what I had, and what I gave lasted forever. And it's a long-term plan. Wealth building is something that requires some perspective. It requires you to really care about your family and to really be, free and liberated and courageous enough to try something different. It requires you to be insightful enough to realize that what everybody else is doing is not working. Black wealth is going backward. All these educated Negroes out here talking about, I got a degree from Yale and I did this and did that. They're going backward. They're all pumped up because Biden's thinking about helping with the student loan problem. I think that's good, but he ain't talking about paying off the amount of debt that a lot of these people have. He's talking about $10,000. 10,000. No, don't get me wrong. $10,000 is $10,000. Good for you. But first of all, a big chunk of black college graduates, their student loans are in default. So he's gonna pay back the $10,000 to the banks that you probably wasn't even gonna pay anyway. A lot of people weren't even gonna pay that 10,000 to be. Let's just keep it 100. Half of all black college graduates default on their student loans, and these are the graduates. This only include the people that went to school for a couple of years and dropped out. There's more of those than there are graduates. Half of all black college graduates never graduate, and then the half that do graduate, half of them go into default on their student loans. So they're living in denial. They're living with their heads in the sand. So they're basically removing bad debt. That's it. For a lot of people, they're removing bad debt. Also, $10,000 for a lot of people is going to be a drop in the bucket. I mean, I don't know. Mention in the chat if in fact, if you don't want to talk about yourself, talk about somebody else. Give me numbers of student loan debt levels that you have seen. Like, do you have friends that owe 200,000, 150,000, 80,000, 112,000? Like, put some numbers in here, that reflect the big numbers that you've seen. I've had people hit me up who literally owe like $400,000 in student loan debt. And one lady didn't even finish her graduate degree. She went to graduate school and got all this debt and didn't even finish. And she was making maybe 50 grand. And I'm sitting there thinking, and she's like, Dr. Boyce, how do I pay off $400,000 in debt? And I only make $50,000. I said, girl, you need Jesus. We need, we need to get Jesus on speed dial because I can't really do analysis for you. I just need to pray for you because I don't know what to do with this. I'm not a magician. I told you I'm a mathematician, not a magician, right? So really, more realistically, I said you're gonna have to accelerate, your rate of income, and you may have to just take, you may have to do some things that I wouldn't technically recommend in terms of, I don't even know if it makes sense for you to just slave away on that job for the next 30 years and try to pay off the debt and make a dent in the debt, and then you die at your desk without any wealth. I think you might have to find another way around. You might have to use some estate planning, some trusts, some LLCs, or some other, some shelters to protect that money so that they don't come out and take the money you have to pay off this crazy debt, because it's a bogus debt. It's a bad debt. See, a lot of student loan debt is predatory lending. That I would define it as predatory lending, because people shouldn't be charging you $200,000 to go to college. That's ridiculous. They only did it because they could. These universities should be dealt with, you know, in a way that reflects the unethical nature of charging someone a higher amount of money just because you can. So I think that we should reframe how we even look at college debt to begin with. So let's be clear. So I see Kenneth says 120,000. Yep. Vic says friends with over 300,000 for medical school. I know a lot of doctors who have been practicing medicine for 30 years who are still in debt. If you're a doctor, think about this. You're a doctor. You're making all this doctor money. Your debt should be gone, but it's not gone. I know exactly why it's not gone. But it's not. Let's see. Tell It Taste says 100,000. Ashley says 320,000. Ken says his wife owes 120,000. Yeah. So here's the summary on this, right? So what the guy is saying is awesome about investing for his son. When I laid out the $5 a day plan that I mentioned to you guys earlier, on the allblackagenda.com, you can get it for free. Feel free to go. It's an ebook, and it basically explains how to invest $5 a day, how to build wealth by investing $5 a day. I set $5 a day as the lower benchmark. I set that as the lowest number I could come up with that would allow you to generate substantial amounts of wealth, so that I could deal with all the people who don't believe in black people. Like all the black people who don't believe black people are capable of doing anything on our own without white people. Like, all the black people, all the Negro naysayers, who have a problem for every solution, who get mad at you for saying, actually, this problem is solvable, right? And now the thing about it, though, is that I'm hoping that most of you will be smarter than that. I'm hoping that, that the future of your children is worth more than $5 a day to you. If you got it like that. Now, if you're struggling, don't get me wrong. I mean, I understand. Do what you can. But a lot of you, if you got that three, four, $500 car note and you're investing $150 for the future of your family, $150 a month, that's what $5 a day is. 5 times 30 is $150 a month. If you're investing $150 a month for the future of your family, but you got a $400, $500 car note, then I would almost say maybe you should shift your priorities just a little bit. You're right. It's not the $500 car note doesn't bother me. It's more so that you're putting more money into a car note than you're putting into your future. You see that right there is a recipe for financial disaster. That's a recipe for economic misery. That's a recipe for staying in the trap. The one recipe for staying in the trap is to give away more money than you actually keep and grow. Putting money into depreciating assets like a car, and then not putting money into appreciating assets like a home or in stocks and bonds, right? So $5 a day. I did the math. Again, if you go to financialjuneteenth.tv.com, the video's right there where I explain the $5 a day program and I break it down for you. And basically, what happens in this phenomenal transaction is by doing that $5 a day consistently. Let's say you do this for your child when they're born. In 10 years, on average, this would have worked if you had done this, say, 30, 40 years ago, and it would still work today based on what we know about the stock market. After about 10 years, the person would have about $30,000 in assets. So think about this. So just in one decade, you're out of the trap. There's no person that can say they're in the trap who has $30,000 liquid in stocks. There's nobody you will ever meet who says, "Oh my God, I'm so poor, I'm so miserable." And you say, "Well, how much money do you have in your stock portfolio?" They say $30,000. Give me a yes or no if you know what I'm saying, right? So just in 5 years, I've gotten you out of the trap. So everybody who tells you that being in the trap means you got to stay in the trap is a liar. They are an absolute liar. They are a white supremacist. They are a racist. They do not have your best interests at heart. They want you to economically die. They want you to be in misery. That is not your friend. I just explained to you how even a person with the education of a 2-year-old can get themselves out of the trap in less than a decade by simply investing consistently the amount of money that you can't even use to buy a Popeye's chicken value meal. So anybody who tells me black people can't afford to invest is basically saying black people cannot afford Popeye's chicken, and we know that that is a damn lie. We know that's a lie. So stop it. Stop feeding the poverty narrative to black people. Stop getting us addicted to the trap. And I'm not just talking about the trap for poor people. I'm talking about the trap for you educated Negroes too. I'm talking about y'all who went to college, got the degrees, the BA, BSs, MA, MSs, PhDs, JDs, everything else, but never learned anything about how to own an asset. Never learned anything about how to start a business. Never learned anything about how to build a side hustle. Never learned anything about how to make the real money, and only know how to survive economically if your oppressor decides to hire you. So your whole economic fate is in the hands of people that you claim to be getting liberation from. You claim to be trying to liberate yourself from white supremacy, but you are deeply embedded, deeply committed to a white supremacist system. That's where you are. I'm not making fun of you. If I was making fun of you, I'd be making fun of myself because I was in the trap for a long time. Not a PhD, I was in the trap. I thought that the best way out of the trap was to commit more to the trap. I thought that, getting extra degrees and going to school longer and everything else would guarantee me the best jobs. And it did. My first job ever was at Syracuse University. I made $115,000 a year, which was a lot of money back in 2001. I was the only black person in America to get a PhD in finance that year. There was no other African American on earth anywhere who got that degree that year. Nobody else in 2002, when I actually finished my dissertation, who had a PhD in finance. So I was hot shit, man. I mean, I was the man. I thought I made it. I thought I was a successful Negro. I mean, seriously, I was like, look at me, mama, I made it. But I didn't know that I hadn't even made it to first base. I hadn't even made it to first base. I didn't know how much more there was beyond the wall. And I didn't understand that even with all the education I had, that I would still have to deal with the same racial microaggressions that a lot of us deal with every day, the things that drive you crazy, that make you want to punch a hole in the wall. With the discrimination that is unaddressed. You want to go file a lawsuit, but the law doesn't have your back. They don't support you in these racial discrimination cases. So I realized that the best way to beat that trap and to beat those white supremacist systems was to try to get out of them. And the best way to get out of them is through things like owning black owned business. Black owned business really is the solution. Like that's the holy grail for black people. Finding a way to either get a black owned business or work for one. The best way to overcome that system is to get out of it. That's my conclusion. That's what I believe. That's my gospel. But then again, maybe somebody else believes in this integration thing. Maybe they believe that if we keep doing what we've been doing, that we're going to get better results. But the reason I'm not a fan of that is because I looked at the data. I'm a data oriented. I'm fact oriented. And so when I look at everything that's happened in America since the Civil Rights Movement in 1968, and I look at every measuring stick from wealth to education to family structure, everything else, I see black people going backward. I don't see black people benefiting from our overcommitment to white supremacy. I just don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can show me data that proves me wrong, but I have not seen that data. But I've seen a whole lot of, I spent last night in Atlanta at a conference with a whole lot of really, really happy black entrepreneurs. They were real happy. There was no, everybody in the room was black. Everybody was smiling. Everybody was friendly. Everybody was hanging out. It was great. Right. So I said, okay, this is for me. This is where I want to be. I don't want to be at these crunchy corporate conferences where I'm talking to some guy named Bob who's sitting next to Steve, and Bob and Steve are telling jokes that I don't even think are funny, and I tell a joke and they don't think it's funny, and we don't understand each other. I don't enjoy that crap. And so I'm just here to tell you that there's a lot of ways to skin that economic security cat. And I encourage you to make sure your children know all these methodologies. Now, one thing I'll add to what this brother said. So remember, I told you, okay, so the $5 a day plan. Let me just go through that really quickly. $5 a day invested in the S&P 500. If you just simply invest that money in like an ETF for the S&P, they call it a spider, SPDR. So if you invest consistently in that spider, then you would have about, again, according to history, past performance is not a predictor of future performance, and this is not investment advice. This is just me simply laying some facts out for you. But basically, if a person had done this, say, starting in 1990 or done it in the past, after about 10 years, they'd have approximately $30,000 in liquid wealth. After 20 years, they'd have over 100,000, about $113,000. After 30 years, the person would have about $330,000. After 40 years, so by the time the child is 40 years old, they have a $948,000. So they have almost $1 million in liquid wealth, which is utterly phenomenal, not just because they're in the top 1% of wealth builders in America. They've gone from the bottom to the top. They started from the bottom, now they're here. But also on top of that, most millionaires do not have, I repeat, most millionaires do not have, I repeat one more time, most millionaires do not have $948,000 in liquid wealth. You see, millionaire status is determined by the value of your assets minus the value of your liabilities. So when somebody's defined as a millionaire, it's because if you add up the value of what they own and you subtract what they owe, that number's over $1 million. A lot of people become what they call automatic millionaires. David Bach talked about this, and they don't even know they're millionaires. But they don't, because they don't have $1 million in the bank. They think that being a millionaire means having $1 million in cash. So if a person is liquid, if they have $948,000 in stock that they could sell in a second and generate $948,000, that person is almost like an economic god. And why do I say a god? I mean, because to me, a god, I don't want to get too metaphysical, but to me, a god is somebody who can snap their fingers and manifest a reality out of nothing. Like a god can take something from the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension and make it into a three-dimensional reality just like that. So a God has the ability to manifest. So God has the ability to see a vision and make that vision real. Like an entrepreneur who sees a business concept and can create that business, or an architect who sees a building in their mind and they can create that building, or a songwriter who can hear a song in his head and then they turn it into a song that everybody else can hear. Right? That creativity gives you the power of a God, and the best way to unleash that power is when you are able to elevate to higher frequencies, higher levels of existence, right? And you cannot elevate if you're on the lower frequency of basic security and survival. Like if you haven't even solved the basic things, then you can't get to the complex things. If you haven't found a way to just basically survive, then you really can't get to living until you figure out how to survive. So give me a yes or no. Give me a yes or no. How many of you know a bunch of black folks who feel like every day is all about surviving? Like it's hard out here to be in black. We just, and you say, well, how you doing? How you been, man? Oh man, I'm doing all right. I'm just surviving. "Oh, how you doing, girl?" "Well, I'm maintaining. I made it through. I made it through the storm. Jesus got me through the storm." Like how many of y'all hear that? Like that struggle talk. Give me a yes or no if you're familiar with the struggle talk. Some of us participate in that, right? That's you get trained on that from birth. You get because there's so much trauma, like they say, like Snoop used to say, there's so much drama in the LBC. Well, there's so much trauma in BLACK, right? There's so much trauma, for us growing up that we get into this struggle talk. We get into struggle talk, which translates into strugglenomics, where you're not really thinking about trying to prosper. You're thinking about trying to survive, right? So in the Black community, that's why you have. And remember, I'm marrying a therapist, so I see this stuff up close all the time. You have a lot of stress, anxiety, and depression in the Black community because it all links to this struggle talk and this struggle experience, and you're living on the struggle vibration, the struggle frequency. So you can't elevate to the actualization. You can't elevate to fulfillment. You can't elevate to living a wealthy life because you're trying to just overcome the struggle. You can't hit a home run because you can't get to first base. So get your kids to first base so your kids will have a chance to hit home runs. So $5 a day. So I mentioned to you how your child is a millionaire or close to it, and maybe they're not. Maybe they don't have 948,000 when they're 40. Maybe it's just 722,000. But I mean, process this: a Black man with $722,000 in the bank is a pretty happy Black man. I mean, ladies, seriously, like if you met a handsome man who was very nice to you, who treated you with respect, and he said, "Oh, by the way, I have $722,000 in liquid assets," would that make you feel pretty good about that man? Give me a yes or no. If he said, "I've got $722,000 in stock, I'm trying to get to a million, but I've only got $722,000," would you say he'd probably have a chance to keep your attention, especially if he's like a good guy and he treats you well already and you already kind of like him? And you're comparing him to some other guy who's in the struggle, who's basically can't even pay his own child support, right? Can't even take care of the kids he got, right? I would imagine, ladies, that would make him a pretty quality man. Now, I'm a little old fashioned in the sense that my daddy raised me to believe that if a man can't take care of himself and take care of his family, he's not going to be respected as a man, and women are not going to be attracted to him. No matter how much people want to convince you that things like that don't matter, that's not true. One of the books I wrote in 2006 was called Financial Lovemaking. And I spent a lot of time doing research on not just financial psychology, but on how money affects relationships. And one of the things I realized is that financial security is really important to women, very important to women. I mean, I would interview women. I interviewed a lot of women for that book, and a lot of men as well, but it was more so based on the woman's perspective on this. And I remember talking to women, and they would talk about financial betrayal from their ex. One lady lived next door to Bob Costas, and she had a lot of money. Her family was very well off, and her husband took care of all the finances. And she said that she didn't know her husband had developed a crack addiction. And she said, one day I woke up, I had no husband and no money in the bank, and it was devastating. And I heard other crazy stories like that. And I remember noticing that when men ruin the financial security of the family, it was worse than if he had actually had an affair. Like if I had to compare which gets a man in more trouble, ruining the family wealth and income versus cheating, although all that's bad, right? None of that's acceptable. I would say that ruining the financial security was a bigger trigger for the women, like it's almost like unforgivable. Like I can't depend on you now because you're stupid and because you're not a good leader for this family. So make no mistake about it. And now for women, financial security is important for a different reason. Um, my daughters, I explain to them that they want to be financially secure so they can avoid financial abuse. So some man doesn't feel that he can control them because of money. Because I've seen divorces where the husband will say, well, if you leave me, you can't pay the bills by yourself, right? And a lot of women will stay in unhappy relationships for simple things like that, right? So if you make sure your daughter is financially secure, then that helps her to avoid that kind of control. She can self-actualize a little better by picking a man based on criteria other than how much money he has in the bank, because she's able to focus on other things that make her happy, not just the money, right? So, and that gives her power, it gives her freedom, it gives her options, and people with options tend to be happier. Um, The other thing I want to mention is that if you take the $5 a day plan, remember $5 a day of investing in an S&P 500 Spider would have yielded $30,000 after 10 years, 113,000 after 20 years, 330,000 after 30 years, 948,000 after 40 years. Well, what if you took that number and you multiplied it by 4? So what if you were really aggressive with your kids and really, truly committed on a high level to make sure your kids were good, and you did that at $20 a day? Right, $20 a day is about the amount of money a lot of people spend going to lunch every day at work. Right, going to lunch, it might cost you $20, maybe 10, 15, whatever. So $20 a day, it's a little bit of a higher mark though, right? $600 a month. So for some people that's a tough number, so maybe you'd have to do it as a family or whatever. But what does that do? Well, all the numbers multiply by 4. So after 10 years, instead of it being 30,000, you're talking about $120,000 after 10 years. So now you've got a median, pay attention now, that net worth in your family of that individual is higher than most white people. Most white people do not have $130,000 in net worth. Like the guy mentioned that the median net worth of a white person in America is $17,000. I'm surprised that number seems a little low. I'd have to fact check that. I know for a family, it's about 177,000 for a white family. That's the whole family put together, not just one person, right? So within again, starting off, in the struggle, or not having as much money as you want, within a decade, you've got 130,000 or 120,000, sorry, 30 times 4. After 20 years, you've gone from 113, you multiply that by 4, that becomes what, 452,000, so almost half a million. After 30 years, instead of 330,000, you multiply that by 4, you've got about 1.3 million. So you're now millionaire status, right? So you're doing great. And then after 40 years, instead of 948,000, you're talking about maybe about $3.6 million. So your child is liquid as a 3.6 millionaire, a millionaire 3 times over, because you made a plan. It might be because you watched this video. Seriously, like this video that you're watching right now or that you're listening to, because I'm doing the avatar. I'm laying in the bed. I'm just sitting there talking to you guys. This video could literally be the catalyst that changes your family for the next 200 years. And I'm not saying this because I think that Boyce Watkins is the greatest guy in the world. I'm saying it because I know what the hell I'm talking about. And I'm praying to every God imaginable that you're listening to me, and that you will not just listen and be inspired, but that you will walk away and take action, that you will do something. Those babies need you. Like those kids really need you. And the thing about economics is warfare. And it's tough to show up to a battle where everybody wants to take you out, because everybody's at war with the black man. Everybody's at war with the black woman. It's tough to show up to battle where everybody wants to take you out and you ain't even got no weapons. You ain't got no weapons. You don't have no shield. You don't have a battle plan. How are you going to win? Seriously, how are you going to defeat? I mean, why? Let's process this for a moment, right? Dr. Claude Anderson, who's one of the faculty in the Black Business School. We have faculty that you don't see anywhere else, because we're specifically focused on the Black wealth issue. That's all we focus on. We do a Powernomics masterclass every week, and one of the things Dr. Anderson breaks down in the book Powernomics that's really fascinating is that white supremacy is one of the most coordinated, sophisticated, well-planned, well-designed systems in the history of this earth. Like, did you know? Tell me if you know this. Give me a yes or no if you knew this. The Nazis used to study America and the South in particular, and the things like their black codes and slave codes and everything else, so they can learn how to exterminate the Jewish community. They used to study us because they were like, wow, like it was almost like pimp to pimp. Like, you really got your hoes in check. You need to open up a pimp school to teach us how to keep our hoes in check. Like, that's what it is. Like, just to lay it out there plainly. Like, that's what it was. The Nazis were like, we need to learn from y'all because y'all really have this thing down. So this is a really well structured system. It focuses on everything related to brainwashing. You must do appropriate brainwashing and propaganda to ensure that your slaves are as committed to this system as you are. You see, white supremacy works best when everybody wants it to win, and when everybody's committed to it. When everybody invests in white supremacy, then it functions most effectively. So that's why you have millions of black people who behave like white supremacists, right? So So here's the deal. With white supremacy being one of the most sophisticated, well-developed, well-designed, well-executed systems in the history of this world, how you gonna defend yourself against a system like that and overcome a system like that when you're showing up to battle with sticks and rocks? You're showing up with sticks and rocks with a disorganized army, ain't even got no army, right? And they're showing up with nuclear weapons, in the National Guard and Navy SEALs and well-trained platoons. You can't win that battle. So here's the deal. I'm not even going to try to talk to you about how we as black people can organize and form the weapons to overcome white supremacy, because I have a lot of education, but I can't do that's a math equation that I can't really solve. I can't figure out how you can get 40 million people who've been trained to be slaves to overcome the slave masters, because that probably takes a lot more courage and coordination than we're able to muster, at least in this generation. But here's what I can tell you. I can teach you how your child and your family can defend itself against that system, because you have that sphere of influence that you control, where you can make the decision to ensure that you are organized and prepared well enough to counter the effects of this broader white supremacist system. So think of it like weather. If it's raining outside, I can't really tell you how to stop the rain. Like Biggie had a song. The Notorious B.I.G. had a song with Shaquille O'Neal that was really good, and the chorus was, "You can't stop the rain," right? So I can't tell you how to stop the rain. I can't, but I can tell you how to not get wet, right? I can't tell you how to stop the rain, but I can tell you how to not get wet. White supremacy is the rain. It is everywhere, and a lot of these Negroes are going to get wet because they're not even thinking ahead enough to go buy an umbrella. Don't even want to invest in an umbrella. Have been convinced that they are too broke to buy an umbrella, can't build an umbrella, don't know how to stay inside the house. They want to go outside, and they want to go outside without an umbrella, and because they love the misery of complaining about how wet and muddy they are. They enjoy that. They like to live in the mud because they've been trained to think that way. So I can't tell you how to stop that rain. I can't tell you how to teach other people how to not get wet, because they're not going to listen. They're determined to get wet because they enjoy complaining about it. But I can tell you how to make sure you and your family stay dry and warm next to the fire inside the house. I'm going to say, look, it's raining outside. Don't go out there. If you do go out there, make sure you have an umbrella. Here's how you build an umbrella, or here's where they're selling umbrellas. If you invest a couple of dollars, you can actually get you an umbrella right now, right? Do you get what I'm saying? I know that that's kind of a weird analogy. I have never used that analogy before in my life. These analogies really do come from God. I say what comes to mind. I'm not afraid to say it. And that's what came to mind. And I hope that that makes the point. So let me just say this as a final little tiny point about this brother's article. So the brother hit the thumbs up button, by the way. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please take a second to hit the thumbs up button. And also, I should let you guys know, if you want to get text notifications when I go live and stuff like that, you can text the word Boyce to 31996, text Boyce to 31996. And I should let you guys know about an event we have coming up. We have a new film that we just put out. I was an executive producer on the film. It's called Happy, and it basically shows it's where I told you guys we're trying to build a black-owned movie industry, and we're doing it. We're getting it done. Our movies have been seen by millions of people, and the latest release is a film directed by Taki Grant called Happy, and Happy. Is a well-done film that took years and years to create by black filmmakers, and what it does is it explores modern day economic systems and takes them all the way back to ancient Africa, Kemet, Kush, Egypt, etc. Professor James Small, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Sharif Abdul Malik, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, among others. I'm in the film. So if you'd actually like to join us, we're going to do a screening of the film on the 21st coming up. You can go to blackmovienight.net. That's blackmovienight.net. If you happen to be watching this video after that screening, I encourage you to go to happyfilm.com to go take a look at the film. It's really, really good, and I know you're going to love it. So with this article, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. So the brother basically talks about how his son has more money in the bank than he did at 18 because he's been basically doing the right thing. He's been investing consistently for his son since he was born. I think that's really great. But here's a couple of little tweaks I'm going to mention. He says that his son and daughter each have a 529 college plan and a custodial account. 529 college plan allows you to put money into an account that helps the child prepare for college, right? So the wealth grows so that by the time they get to college, the money can go to pay their college tuition. They also have other plans across different states where you can freeze the cost of tuition. Like a university will say, if you put your money in this account, we won't raise the cost of tuition for your child, as long as you fill the account up and your child comes to this school or goes to school in this state. I'm not doing that. I have a niece that's 2 years old, and we're preparing for her financial future, making sure she learns multiple languages, making sure she has plenty of money in the bank. We're not going to do those college plans, and especially plans that where the money must be used for college. The reason is because as a college professor, as a person who's taught on university campuses, I taught at the University of Kentucky, Indiana University, Syracuse University, the Ohio State University. I also taught in China and I taught in Europe. Um, College is too expensive. I told my brother, I said, I am not going to go accumulate hundreds of thousands of dollars in wealth for our niece or for my niece and your daughter. So just so she can go flip all that money over to a white man to get a college degree. It doesn't mean I don't believe in education. She's going to have an excellent education. But I am not convinced that expensive college degrees are always the most efficient way to educate a child. Right. So I'm not going to go and spend, by that time, it may cost $400,000 to go, college tuition, maybe $150,000 a year. I'm not going to spend $500,000 so you can get a degree, so you can get a basic degree in English literature. I'm just not going to do that. Now, what I would do is what we're doing with our son. He's going to go to a state university. Me and his mother, we can afford to send him to any school he wants to go to, but no, we're going to send him to a quality state university. We're going to make sure he studies hard, makes good grades, so that when he gets out of school, if he wants to get a job, he'll be able to get jobs that are about as good as he could get if he went to one of the expensive schools. But then, and most importantly, we're training him on how to start his own business, because I let him know, look, no matter how much you want to change it, you're always going to be a black man. And as a black man, the same economic opportunities are not going to come to you in a white economic system. So the best way to have to prepare yourself, again, for the rain that's outside, is to carry an umbrella. Your umbrella, your insurance policy, your ace in the hole, your FU money as a black man is that, number one, you're going to invest consistently in stocks, which you're already doing anyway. We're going to keep doing that. Number two, you're going to be trained on how to start a business, so that when you get on that job, if you hate that job, and if you get mad at your coworkers, or if you feel like you're being treated bad because you're black, we're not going to take the standard route. The standard route is that you sit in the trap, you marinate in the trap, and you go home and you drink yourself to sleep every night, and you whine and complain to your friends about how bad white people are treating you, and you end up having to go to a therapist because you become damn near suicidal after your marriage breaks up because the stress on the job is driving you so crazy that you start to be mean to your wife or whatever. We're not doing all that. We're going to give you an outlet. We're going to make sure that you know how to start a business, so that if you decide to do it, you can get up on a Tuesday, tell your boss to kiss your black ass, and that you're quitting, and that you're going to go start your own company. That's what we're going to do. We're going to position you to have options. Power, options, and freedom are all siblings in the same family. Power, options, and freedom are all connected. Power, options, and freedom are related to one another. So if you ever want to know what it means to not be free, being a slave and having no power pretty much means you have no options. When you have options, you have freedom and you have the power to at least control your own life, or at least ensure nobody else is controlling your life other than you. Right? So with that, I would say that, the brother putting the money in the 529 savings plan, that's definitely better than nothing. I'm not putting my money in a 529 savings plan. I'm investing consistently for my niece so that she will have plenty of wealth, and that's just what it is. The wealth may be used for college. It may be used to start a business. It may be used to buy real estate. It's going to be used to help her build a capital base. A college degree pretty much just gives you a human capital base. It gives you a capital base where you've got this thing called human capital that you can make money from for the rest of your life. That's why you get a degree. That's what a degree does. Well, there's a lot of ways to have a capital base. Real estate can be a capital base. If I own, pay attention. Listen, check this out. Yesterday, I'm walking down the street with Alicia. We're walking through downtown Atlanta on our way to Target or something, I think. And she tells me about a coworker she had, a white coworker. She says that her coworker used to work, and he said, "Oh, I only work for fun. I don't need this money." And she's like, "You don't need the money. We all need our money." He said, "No, I don't care." He's like, "I don't even care if they give me a raise or not. I just work so I can have something to do." he says, and she said, well, how do you have money? And he said, my grandparents gave me an apartment building. He said, yeah, so I get my money from my apartment building. So when I get my paycheck, I take it and we go to Vegas or something. We do something fun with it, but I don't actually need the money. So this is what it means to be financially free. Like when you die, I want you to do something awesome like that for your grandkids or your kids. Like I want your kids and grandkids to be able to say, "Oh yeah, my parents left me an apartment building, so I really don't have to work." That's another type of capital base that you can have that is probably better than a college degree. Or maybe, my grandpa bought some stock. In the year 2070, your great grandkids are saying, yeah, my great grandfather started buying stock way back in 2020. He was listening to that crazy guy, Boyce Watkins, and so Boyce convinced him to start buying stock consistently for us. And so, yeah, we've got about $20 million in assets, and I make $100,000 a month just writing call options on the stock that I own, and so I don't actually have to work anymore, like because thanks to old Grandpa Joe, or Grandma Octavia or Grandma Pamela. My financial situation was secured long before I was born. That's how wealth is supposed to work. Okay, so going back to what the brother said about the 529 plan, I'm not doing 529 plans. I'm doing the Boyce Watkins plan, right? That's what that's gonna be. Number two, he mentioned custodial accounts. Custodial accounts basically allow you to put the money in your child's name at an early age where they own the account. It's their money. I don't do that. And the reason I don't do that is I don't know about you, but my kids are wonderful. They're loving. They're sweet. They're great. But sometimes they're just stupid. I'm sorry. I don't know about y'all. Give me a yes or no in the chat. When you were young, how many of y'all did stupid stuff when you were young? How many of you? I mean, I don't know. I was a stupid kid. If you put like $100,000 in my name when I was 18 years old, I probably would have been broke by the age of 20. I ain't gonna lie. As much as I'd like to pretend like I was this beacon of personal responsibility and made sound decisions in every aspect of my life, no, I was a little bit of a dumbass. And all the fellow dumbasses, please don't make me feel alone. Like, tell me, give me a yes in the chat if you too were a little bit of a dumbass when you were 18 years old, and that it might have been a mistake to give you a whole bunch of money and give you all of your money at the age of 18. When you're 18, think about this. When you're 18, your brain isn't even fully developed. Your brain doesn't fully develop till you're 25. Again, I'm marrying a psychologist. She tells me these things, right? So why would you give an immature kid whose brain isn't even fully developed, who's literally moving, like a lot of his decisions are based on instincts and hormones and not logic and long-term planning, because again, his brain isn't fully developed. He's working with like 80% of a brain. So, you got to be patient with him, right? Why would you give that child all that money, right? Just so that he can give it all to his new girlfriend, or she can, or she falls in love and decides she wants to go into business with Rico, and it's really because the sex is good, because she ain't never had sex with nobody before and she thinks it's the best thing ever. And next thing you know, Rico done ran off with all the money. And next thing you know, then you're in trouble. You got to go to jail, because then you got to go hire somebody to kill Rico. Right? So who wants to do that, right? I don't want you to go to jail. So I'm going to give you some advice that will keep you out of jail so you don't have to go kill Rico after your daughter gives all the money to Rico in his new liquor store, because she just thinks Rico is the love of her life. Don't scratch that. Let me back up. I'm not telling you what to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm not putting nothing in nobody's name until I have decided that they are ready to receive that money. Right? When the child is at a certain age, and I do this with all my kids. I have my daughter, and I got a crazy complex layout with them. My kids, most of my kids are my gods, are given to me by God. They when I say God children, I mean that I'm supposed to be their dad. We are spiritually bonded. It's stronger than blood to me. And so when I say my kids, that's what I'm talking about. But I have one biological child. I have several guy kids, and I'm a bonus dad for 3 kids in my house, right? But these are all my children. I'm responsible for all of them. I want to make sure they're all good. So what I do is I observe their behavior. And if you're doing things, again, money is power. And I have no problem saying that I'm the patriarch of the family. I don't consider the word patriarch to be a bad word. I don't think the word matriarch is a bad word. Alicia's the matriarch. I'm the patriarch. We earn the right to do this, right? So as the patriarch, when you tell me that you want a bunch of money to engage in some harebrained scheme, I might say to you, you know what? I love you to death. I'm always here. I'll always be here to give you unconditional love, support, and advice. But I'm not going to put my money into that. I'm not going to invest in that because that does not make sense to me. What you're doing here, I don't think that's a good decision. And the other thing, because the truth is, actually, a lot of people don't know this, but 90, 80, sorry, was it 70%? Scratch it, 70% of all wealthy families lose all their wealth in one generation. Did you know this? How many of you knew this? Give me a yes or no if you knew this. 70% of all wealthy families lose all their wealth in one generation. Well, why? Why? Well, who's the culprit? Who's the dirty white man, the white supremacist who came in and stole all your money? Because it's got to be racism, right? It's got to be racism. No, your money was stolen. A lot of times your money gets lost from your kids. The culprit is your children. You're called, those little kids where you thought that you were doing them a favor by making sure they avoided all the struggles that you went through as a child. Well, there's a downside to that. Some of your kids are spoiled. Some of your kids make bad choices. Some of you might be tempted to release the money a little bit too soon. So, and this isn't just a black issue. This is a white issue. White people do the same thing, right? And also, here's what's also interesting: 90% of all wealthy families lose all their wealth within 2 generations. So, if it ain't the kids, it's the grandkids. So, the ability to create wealth, that problem, that challenge of creating wealth, is only met by the greater challenge of preserving and protecting the wealth. Right. So if you watch wealthy families like millionaire, billionaire families, and a lot of these billionaire families that are exceptionally good at building and preserving wealth, they do weird stuff that the regular people don't understand. Like they don't we don't may not understand, like, why does the 5-year old is why is the 5-year old meeting with the family financial advisor at the family reunion? Like, why is the financial advisor and the accountant and the lawyer at the family reunion? Well, because these are individuals that are important for preserving the family empire, and they pretty much get their kids on code early. They get them on code and prepared early. Warren Buffett had a granddaughter. He told his family, look, no interviews. Like, do not talk about our family business to the media at all. One of his granddaughters did an interview with the press. He disowned her. Right? I'm not saying you should do this. I don't believe in that, right? I don't think we have to operate the way they operate, right? But this tells you the seriousness with which people think about preservation of wealth. You cannot just sloppily hand a bunch of money over to your kids if they're untrained on how to manage money, if they're undisciplined on what it takes to protect money, if they're not prepared to receive the money, or they're getting the money all in one lump as opposed to over time, or whatever the case may be, or according to specific conditions. That's a recipe for disaster. Like Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player, he has a saying he shares with his kids. He tells his kids, he says, he expects them all to have master's degrees to get access to their complete share of their inheritance. He said, if you don't have the degrees, then you won't get the cheese. So that's his way of enforcing a code of behavior that will lead to wealth preservation. So don't think that because they're your kids that they're going to have your best interests at heart. Some of our kids just do stupid things, and it's not because they're just bad people. It's because we were all stupid when we were young. So, or a lot of us were. Maybe some of you weren't, but I mean, I know I did some stuff where I wish I could take that stuff back. So that last piece about custodial account for his 2-year-old, I'm not into that. I think you can invest for that child where you control all those resources and all those assets, and then when the child is ready, you can say, hey son, by the way, I know you thought you were broke, but here's $100,000 for your birthday, or better yet, or here's 30,000, right? And really, you've got $250,000 sitting in your account for the child. You know that. They may not know that. Your will knows that. You got that in your estate plan in case something happens to you, but they don't need to know that, right? Because in that way, also, you're able to give them the chance to have the cushion and the financial security and the benefits of that, while at the same time enjoying the journey of of achieving something, right? Like, there's something really fun and exciting about making money for the first time. There's something exciting about having the hunger to get up every day and achieve a goal. Like, I love these things. And the problem with wealth creates an odd little type of existential kind of paradox you go through, where a lot of rich people get really depressed because So much of our society is built around working every day for money. Everything you do, you get up and you go to work for money. You do this for money. Everything's done for money, 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 money. Well, what happens when you have enough money and money is no longer part of your equation anymore? Like you don't need money in order to um, survive because you've got plenty of it. Well, what do you do then? What gets you up out of the bed in the morning? What inspires you? So if you ever hear about wealthy people, like you have these rich kids that will go around and get hooked on drugs and do stupid stuff. Well, a lot of times it's because they don't have a sense of purpose. Their sense of purpose was zapped by the fact that they had enough money and nobody ever helped them to figure out who they wanted to be and who they are, right? Or if you ever want to know why you hear stories about athletes who are rich and famous and have all the money, all the women, all the fancy cars, and all this other stuff. Well, a lot of but you hear that they're depressed or suicidal. Well, a lot of that's because once you've had, you know, like as much of the drug of money that you want, then after the high leaves, then you're kind of sitting there in a bowl of depression. So these are some of the things I've observed when it comes to money, things you want to think about with your kids. But at the very least, you want to think, you want to plan, you want to prepare. The key to wealth, a big key of it is what I tell my students. I call it OPP. OPP stands for opportunity, patience, and perspective. People who build wealth tend to be able to spot opportunities because they're trained to know what opportunities look like. That means they know they've been trained on entrepreneurship and investing in real estate. So they know what it looks like when there's an opportunity. A lot of people, you could present them with a $10 million opportunity and it will go right past them because they're looking for a paycheck. Or they're only looking, they're playing strugglenomics, so they're on the low vibrational frequency. So you give them the opportunity to prosper, they won't even see it. Like they say the word poor. I've heard somebody describe the word poor to mean passing over opportunities repeatedly. So people that are poor are on a low vibration frequency a lot of times because they pass over opportunities because they don't even know when the opportunities are actually going right by them, right? Whereas a person who's trained on wealth, who understands what opportunity looks like, can see it and they'll seize it. And then suddenly all their friends are like, oh my God, you get so lucky. How do you get all these opportunities? Well, the wealth builder understands what opportunities look like, and they also understand how to create opportunities. So again, they get that godlike power of manifestation that you don't get when all you do is know how to fill out job applications and chase paychecks. Okay, so you want to make sure your kids are out of that. Patience means that wealth is built through patience and time and waiting and doing the same thing over and over again. That's what they call the accumulation process. The thing is that most of the equations, and I've seen them all, the equations that describe how money grows, those equations are the number one variable in those equations. The number one factor that determines how much your wealth will grow is time. When I look at those equations and you break the equations down, we have ways in mathematics where we can break down and figure out which variables have the greatest impact. Time is the number one factor in wealth building. So a person who accumulates over a longer period of time is going to have more wealth. So think of it like driving down the street in a car. Let's say you have a really fast car. I have a super slow car. But imagine if your fast car goes 200 miles an hour, my slow car goes 50 miles an hour. Well, if we drive the same amount of time, then you're going to go further than me, right? You're going to go, maybe in an hour, you're going to go 200 miles. In an hour, I'm going to go 50 miles. But what if I've been driving for 3 years and you've been driving for a day? Who's going to go further, me or you? I got my car goes 50 miles an hour and your car goes 200 miles an hour. And I've been driving for 3 years. You've been driving for a day. Who's going to go further down the road, me or you? Answer in the chat. There you go. Exactly. It's going to be me. And the reason is because I have the gift of time, the power of time. So your children are born millionaires. You just have to extract the wealth. They're millionaires because they have something that most of us don't have as older adults. They have time. They have time. So when that newborn baby's born, or you start investing because you just found out your wife is pregnant, or you want to plan ahead and you know you're going to have kids in 4 or 5 years, so you start investing for them now. Then you're what you're doing is you're allowing them to extract wealth, like almost like drilling for oil, pulling oil out of the ground, right? You're allowing them to drill for wealth in their most valuable resource. Instead of having an oil well, they've got a time well, and you're drilling in the time well and allowing the wealth to come out. So by the time that child has allowed their wealth to accumulate over a 20 or 30-year period, um, the people who tend to not be able to build wealth are people who think they can get the money fast, people who don't understand the power of time, and are looking for the fast money. I'm not trying to teach you how to get rich quickly. I'd rather show you how to get rich slowly. I don't want you to have the short money. I want you to have the long money, right? So that comes from opportunity, spotting opportunities, having patience, and then having perspective. Perspective just means seeing the big picture. It means understanding that what happens in the short term is not connected to the long term. For example, a person with perspective is somebody who watched the whole market crash 6 months ago. If you recall, the stock market plummeted 6 months ago when COVID began. COVID began, stock market went straight to hell. A lot of people ran, a lot of people got scared, a lot of people sold their assets. The person with perspective bought everything that he could get his hands on because he knew this too shall pass. So that person was able to accumulate massive amounts of wealth. Give me a yes or no if you're in the chat, if you're one of those people who did this, because I've been talking about this since COVID began. If you go back and listen to, videos I did before COVID, you will hear me say, look, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm buying everything I can get my hands on because I think America is on sale. This is an opportunity, and I don't want to be poor. Poor means passing over opportunities repeatedly. Well, here's an opportunity. Feel free to take a look at it. How many of you remember that? Some of you, I hope you remember that. I was saying that before COVID. So a lot of people bought, they bought all kinds of stock or whatever. The prices have gone up. They doubled and tripled and quadrupled. And those people are doing better than other people. And they're doing better than their friend who sat back in fear, who just sat back waiting for Dr. Fauci to tell him that he could go outside again, and they didn't actually understand that there were economic opportunities all around them. So that person sat back struggling. And so maybe now they have a new jealous friend who's mad because, well, you keep getting lucky. Well, you're just fortunate. You're just blessed. No, well, I wasn't just lucky and blessed. I actually took advantage of the same opportunities that you had. You just didn't take it. And that's what you have when you talk about people playing with that struggle talk or playing strugglenomics. That struggle talk is where you have these people who get the same opportunities you get. A lot of you have friends that way, and they didn't take advantage of the opportunities. And then they want to get mad at you because they feel like you were lucky and you were blessed, when really it's because you made different decisions. So if I leave you with anything, I'm hoping that in the big picture context, you at the very least will understand that the number one determinant in how you end up in terms of wealth in your family in the next 10 to 20 years is going to be shaped by you, your choices, not by government policy, by you, not by what other people do, but by you, not by how lucky you are, by you. So just make the right choices. Okay, please do me a favor. If you think this video was helpful to you, if you got something from it, if you could grab that link and share it to your social media, I would really appreciate that. Please make sure you share. If you're watching on any of our YouTube channels, any of our platforms, we are building Black media. We reach 1 million Black people a week, and we are changing culture. That is the goal. The goal is to change culture and change narratives for anybody that wants something better in their life. So if you could, make sure you subscribe. You could text the word Boyce to 31996. If you want to get text notifications, text Boyce to 31996. And of course, we have our Black Business School for Children. I'd be remiss not to mention that. It's really, really good. It's at blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. It's very popular. We have thousands of children in the program. They're all doing extremely well. And the guarantee that we give all of our parents is that if your child does not have a financial literacy level that exceeds the average college educated adult, then let us know. We will give you your money back. We have breakdowns of modules with puppets and cartoons and everything else. Also, we have self-study exams, so you can actually have your child go through the self-study exam to ensure that they know the material cold. And when they're done, they can actually print out almost like a little bachelor's degree that they get from the Black Business School, so they can say that they've actually gone to business school. This is really important for their self-esteem, because a lot of a lot of achievement, economically and otherwise, really a lot of it comes down to believing that you can do it. And a lot in self-confidence, I found in our community, is a huge problem. That's one of the biggest feeders into white supremacy, is the fact that you don't believe you can do it. So you kind of lean on other people, when really I believe Black people can lean on ourselves. I believe we can do anything anybody else can do. I believe we are excellent people. We are extraordinary people. And when you like that match in the child in terms of sparking that fire in them, when they suddenly see what it's like to actually make money, maybe they invest in some stocks and they see their money actually grow, or they get the pride of knowing that when they go eat at McDonald's or wherever you eat, maybe you don't take your kids to McDonald's, I'm not judging you one way or the other, but they get the pride of knowing, hey, I ate at McDonald's, and when they make money, I make money. But that is huge for a child's self-esteem. I'm not kidding. Like, I have seen transformations like you would not believe. So the URL's right there. Feel free to go take a look. You can either do a lifetime option or a monthly option. The first month is $1. If you do the monthly option, the first month is $1. The fee is $89 a month, but the first month costs you $1. So that gives you a month to try it out and see if you like it. And I guarantee you, it will change your child's trajectory for life. My grandmother got me started on wealth. My grandmother never made more than $22,000 a year. She did not have a college degree, but my grandmother got me started on wealth by buying me savings bonds. And also, I noticed that even though she never made more than $22,000 a year, that was what she made at her peak. That was her highest income level. She raised 5 kids all by herself, but she never had a financial problem. She never had to borrow money from anybody. She had her car paid off, her house paid off. She had perfect credit. She had no debt. I didn't understand it because on the other side of my family, those were the bougie Negroes in my family. They were married with with two parents, and they were all kind of light skinned because they had a little bit of colorism. I'm not gonna lie, and they were actually like the first ones to move into a white neighborhood. So they had a lot of the status things going on. They even had a camcorder in the 1960s, which is pretty huge. But it was interesting as a child because they always had financial problems. Like my parents would always get these calls in the middle of the night that so-and-so needs money to, or they're going to get evicted tomorrow. And, just stuff like that. And I didn't understand it. I said, wait a minute, on this side of the family, these are the bougie ones, the ones that have all the fancy stuff, and they have all the financial problems. And on my grandmother's side, where she's a single mother with 5 kids who doesn't even have a college degree, she never has a financial problem. I saw people that made 4 times more money than her coming to her to borrow money, and I didn't get that. And later on in life, when I got my PhD, and I would call my grandmother all the time, it was 10 years before she died. I made a conscious effort to spend more time with her because I didn't know how many more years I had with her. And she started telling me her philosophies on money, and she said it's psychological. She said it's how you think. She said a person who has no money, who is a spender, if you give them more money, all they're going to do is spend more money. She said, but a person who's a saver, if you give them more money, they're going to save more money. And my grandma was a saver. She was not a big investor. She thought the stock market was voodoo. A lot of our grandmas, tell us the stock market's a scary thing. So I'm taking what my grandmother taught me and taking it to the next level. I'm implementing something that would have allowed her wealth to grow even further. And this is not based on speculation. This is based on data and research. I've written research papers in the stock market and in peer-reviewed academic journals, so I know exactly how this dynamic works. I am a financial scientist. That's what we do. So, I thought about this, right? I said, if my grandmother changed my life with basic lessons, the single mother who never made more than $22,000 a year, who raised 5 kids by herself, if she, without a college degree, if she was able to change my life and literally make me into the man I am right now talking to you today, imagine what we could do with children who are introduced to the advanced financial concepts that I've broken down for kids in our Black Business School for Children. I know this stuff super well. And if you put a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old in front of Black college professors that can explain wealth to them in the language of a child at the age of 7 or 8 years old, that child could go on and become a billionaire. Like, some of the kids coming out of this movement are gonna be billionaires. They're not gonna just be millionaires. They're gonna achieve millionaire status by the time they're 15 or 16 years old, and then they're gonna aim for something bigger. And I guarantee you that within the next 40, 50, 60 years, and this is why I'm so excited about this movement we have right now. This is why I'm so excited about what we're doing on these platforms. You're gonna have dozens of billionaires come out of this. Mark my words. I know it because I know the math, I know the science, I know how this stuff works, I know the psychology, I know all of that. And from what I am seeing, you haven't even got to the beginning of how amazing the future is going to look for a segment of the community. It won't be everybody, though. It won't be the whole community. I hate to say it, but some of us are going to be stuck on stupid, stuck on the strugglenomics. I explained exactly why. They spent 400 years teaching us how to be better slaves. Some of us think the best way to get out of slavery is to become the best slave you can possibly be. And that's just not going to work. So anyway, I'm going to go, guys. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out. Please hit the thumbs up, share, and subscribe button. And there's our BlackMillionairesOfTomorrow.com program for children. If you want to take a look, feel free. There's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. So we're not here to take any money from you unless you're 100% happy. and your children are happy. And also, if for the adults, we have something called the Black Stock Market Challenge. You can go to blackstockmarketchallenge.com, and that'll get you started on investing. That doesn't cost you anything to do. So maybe you can do both. Feel free to try them both. We're here at the Black Business School, and we're here to serve you. We're the best in the world at what we do. We're better than any predominantly white university you've ever attended when it comes to Black wealth. We're better than all the HBCUs. I know what they teach, and unfortunately, they teach a lot of the things that perpetuate the problem as opposed to solving it. We're not here to give you medication to help you manage the illness or manage the symptoms. We actually have the cure. We want to administer the vaccine against white economic supremacy. We're here to give you something that's going to help you escape those systems for life. And these models work. This isn't just speculation because we're actually doing it. So I'm out of here, guys. Have a good day. Thank you for listening. This was fun. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.